Matthew 4, 1 through 11. Then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. After fasting 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry. The tempter came to him and said, "If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become bread." Jesus answered, "It is written, man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God." Okay, how's everyone doing? Today I'm going to try to answer the question, do Christians need to fast? So yeah, let's get started. But before we get started, if you aren't subscribed, I post videos like this every single week. So yeah, you know what? If that's what you're into, hit the subscribe button. But anyways, let's get started. Okay, so I want to be upfront with you guys. The point I'm trying to make in this video is yes, Christians should fast. I am a firm believer in the importance of fasting. Let me explain why. So first things first, I really like the definition of fasting given by Dr. Guy Richard. And so what he says is biblical fasting. I still haven't made new graphics yet, so you have to bear with me. Is a sacrificial, voluntary abstaining from food and sometimes from drink for a definite period of time for a spiritual purpose. And I think that the crucial thing about fasting is that we are acknowledging our dependence on God and not on the things of the world. We're getting our priorities straight because let's be honest, it's pretty easy to lose track of what's really important when we get caught up in the busyness and the chaos of life. And the more busy and the more chaotic life gets, the more important practices such as fasting become. And so fasting is always accompanied by prayer. It's meant to be a time of prayerful reflection and meditation and just spending time with God, worshiping Him, listening for His voice. And if we're intentional about fasting, if we do this right, per se, it can be a time of just really great spiritual renewal. And we all know that there are times when we really need that. And so yeah, fasting is important. Okay, now I almost didn't put this next section here into the video. At first I felt like it wasn't really necessary. But then I was like, well, you know what? Like, I need to put this in, especially if I want to address this topic of fasting from a biblical standpoint. And so the question that we're going to kind of address in this section of the video is fasting commanded in the Bible? And so, yeah, let's get into that. So fasting, it's something we see all the time in the Old Testament. Moses fasted at Mount Sinai while receiving the 10 Commandments. There's the famous fast of Daniel, and just people in general fasted all the time when they were pleading with God. And yeah, it was a thing that happened. It was a regular practice. In the New Testament, Jesus talks about fasting all the time, and we see that Jesus did fast. However, it's obvious that in the New Testament something has changed. Something has kind of shifted. The Pharisees, there's this one part in the Gospels where the Pharisees ask Jesus why his disciples aren't fasting. And Jesus responds, "How can the guests of the bridegroom mourn while he is with them? The time will come when the bridegroom will be taken from them, then they will fast." So something's different. Jesus, he talks about not putting new wine into old wineskins. And he's not trying to encourage legalistic religion. When we fast, it's not because it's something that we're supposed to do. But it seems that Jesus, he still expects people to fast once he has gone back up to heaven. But he wants us to fast with the proper mindset. Not legalism, but dependence on God and anticipation of Jesus' return and the ultimate renewal of our physical existence. That was a sentence. I don't know if that made any sense. I like that sentence. That sentence made sense in my head. Okay, and we see numerous references to fasting in the various letters of the Old Testament, of the New Testament. So, is it commanded? No, not really. Your salvation does not hinge on whether or not you fast. But I think the message we get from the New Testament is that, and this is what I would argue, that it's a spiritual practice that is encouraged in the Bible. And Christianity is not legalistic, but there are these spiritual practices that are there. They're there to help you, not to test whether you can obey a bunch of rules. They're there to help you. Okay, now here's an interesting question. Does it need to be food? Can I just fast from social media or technology or donuts? And yes, okay, you could fast from those things. But let me explain why I think fasting from food is really important. So food is this backbone of our physical existence. It's one of our basic physiological needs. Like in school when you looked at those pyramids of our human needs, you have these at the very bottom. You have these basic physiological needs, and food is one of those. And so by denying ourselves food, we really just kind of leaning into our spiritual existence as we kind of deny the physical. Something I forgot to include here that I probably should have included in this section is that there are going to be people who fasting from food is not going to be a good idea for them. There's people with eating disorders and things like that, and there are certain situations where fasting from food isn't going to be a good idea, and I want to clarify that. And so, the point is, you don't need social media in the way you need food. That's just a fact. And so, in my opinion, a social media fast, while it's still a good thing to do periodically, I do it periodically, it's an entirely different thing, in my opinion. Feel free to disagree with me here, but it's an entirely different thing, because, like I said, we don't need social media in the way we need food. And when we deny ourselves food, this basic human need, we're really putting our trust in God, and reminding ourselves that man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God. Okay, so yeah, those are my thoughts on fasting. And so here, let me just give you a quick recap. Fasting is about acknowledging our dependence on God. It's not commanded in the Bible per se, but I would say that it's encouraged as long as it's done with the right mindset. And finally, fasting from food as opposed to other things has significance. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next week.